Rapolo 94 released a video a while back explaining that the defense stat is a lie. His video said the defense stat doesn't matter and each piece of armor has its own damage reduction that isn't tied to the defense stat, and insisted the defense stat is useless. I partly disagree with this. The defense stat isn't used for damage calculations, but for the most part, it indicates how much damage reduction any piece of equipment has. For some reason, a lot of people interpreted it as armor does nothing, which is totally wrong. Let me break this down for you in a way even a YouTube commenter can understand. Every attack in the game does 1 of 6 elemental damages, or no elemental damage. The elements are slashing, piercing, blunt, fire, otherworldly, and leech. The defense stat on armor doesn't do anything to any of those, but each armor has invisible elemental resistances that affect damage from each element. The defense stat mostly corresponds to how much damage each piece of equipment reduces, making it a useful, if somewhat unreliable indicator of how much damage reduction you get. Ragnvaldr's fur armor, for instance, has 20 defense and multiplies blunt, piercing, and slashing damage by 92%, reducing the damage you take by 8%. As noted in the description, it's weak against fire, so it also multiplies fire damage by 160%. All these numbers are multiplicative, not additive. If you have two things that reduce slashing damage by 50%, this doesn't mean that the two 50% add together to 100%, but that you multiply 50% by 50% to get 25%. Now here's the top equipment against each element. The best physical damage body armor, that is, reduces slashing, piercing, and blunt elements, is a tie between the gaunt plate armor and the penance armor. Below that is the plate armor and iron cuirass. These are the heavy armors that children and also Enki can't equip. You'll notice that, aside from penance armor, defense and damage reduction map pretty closely. Penance armor doesn't need to display how good it is because you could never take it off, so it's the exception. Below heavy armor, you have a 4-way tie for light armor. This is one of the two places defense is really screwy, because despite having the same damage reduction, they don't have the same defense. The leather vest, hard leather armor, the fur armor, and the trench coat all have 8% physical damage reduction. These armors all affect fire damage as well. Hard leather armor, dropped by Lizardman, is the best of the four with an insane 75% fire damage reduction. Then comes the trench coat with 60%, Kahara's leather vest with 40%, and lastly Ragnvaldr's fur armor, which makes you take 60% more fire damage because the Outlander is not allowed to have anything good. The Eastern Silk robes, Enki's High Priest robe, and the Common Priest robe all reduce otherworldly damage. Eastern Silk robes are the best at it, reducing it by 30%, with the High Priest robe doing 10%, and the Priest robe doing 5%. The High Priest and Eastern Silk robes also reduce physical damage by 5%. All of these are pretty clearly indicated by their stats. Shields are a straight increase. A wooden buckler reduces physical damage by 6%, spider shield by 13%, and eagle crest shield by 20%. Aside from heavy armor, the eagle crest shield is the best way to reduce physical damage. For helmets, once again, the gaunt bassinet and penance helmet are king. They tie at 15% physical reduction. Second place is a 3-way tie between things that have completely different defense stats, making this the second place that the defense stat is unreliable. The Stone Crown, plate helmet, and iron mask all reduce physical elements by 10%. 2 of those are light armor, so children don't even lose out here. Oddly, the chainmail hood is especially resistant to piercing at 80%, meaning that it's the single best helmet for piercing specifically. Second place for slashing alongside the plate helmet and iron mask, and tied for the worst blunt. The defense values and damage reductions are all over the place here. The Jingasa Kabuto reduces physical and otherworldly by 7%. It's the only hat in the game that reduces otherworldly. There's 5 accessories that also affect the damage you take. The Eclipse Talisman from Yellow Mages, Arm Guards, Leg Guards, the Iron Shakespeare Soul, and the Soul Devour Necklace. Arm and Leg Guards do the same thing. They both reduce physical by 10%. Iron Shakespeare reduces it by 30%. The Eclipse Talisman reduces Otherworldly by 10%, and the Soul Devour Necklace reduces it by 30%. That all said, here's the cliff notes. For reducing physical damage, you want the Eagle Crest Shield, the Gaunt Bassinet or Penance Helmet, the Gaunt Armor or Penance Armor, and the Iron Shakespeare Soul. If you want to specifically resist piercing, such as when fighting the Tormented One, use the Chainmail Hood instead. If you can't equip Heavy Armor and don't want to equip the Penance Armor, use the Eagle Shield, the Iron Mask or Stone Crown, plus either the Leather Vest, the Fur Armor, the Trench Coat, or the Hard Leather Armor with the Iron Shakespeare Soul. If you want to reduce fire damage, use the Hard Leather Armor. Only body armor affects fire, and Hard Leather's the best at it. If you want to resist otherworldly damage, use the Eastern Silk Robes, the Jingasa Kabuto, and the Soul Devour Necklace. There's no way to interact with non-elemental damage such as Sylvian Slappies or leech damage. And the only thing that deals leech damage anyway is Enki's Needleworm, so don't worry about it. To summarize, the defense stat on armor isn't used for damage calculation. It's there to inform the player how effective the equipment is. Frapolo is only half right when he says that defense is a lie. He's ignoring the intent of the stat. There's a few exceptions like the Penance Armor and Trench Coat, but higher defense means that the armor offers more protection. As you can see from the data, there's a very strong correlation between defense and damage reduction.